Any thoughts on that at all, Key?
What you was talking about again?
He said what up to you. It was weird. Like, he says
Who?
things. Andy Cruz.
Who? I don't know what you talking about.
Keyshawn Davis is frustrated with Matchroom Boxing for referring to him as unhappy son while promoting Andy Cruz's fight against Omar Salcido on January 25. Davis believes that Matchroom used his name to draw attention to Cruz, who had already beaten him 4 times in the amateur ranks. Each of those fights was a dominant win for Cruz, making Davis feel disrespected by the way Matchroom highlighted their past rivalry. He openly criticized the company's decision, stating that it wasn't a smart business move, as it has now ruined any chance of him signing with them in the future. However, with Cruz already under contract with Matchroom, some question whether they would have even been interested in signing Davis in the first place. After all, why would they need him when they already have the fighter who defeated him multiple times? Despite their history, Davis has made it clear that he has no intention of fighting Cruz again. He believes that facing Cruz would be a step backward in his career, as he has already built a stronger professional record with more fights under his belt. Davis currently has 12 professional fights, whereas Cruz has only had 5. He argues that Cruz still has a lot of work to do to reach his level. To prove his point, Davis even challenged the media to compare his record at 5-0 to Cruz's current 5-0, suggesting that he fought better opponents early in his career. However, many boxing analysts disagree with this claim, pointing out that Cruz has faced much tougher competition. For example, Omar Salcido, whom Cruz recently dominated in a one-sided unanimous decision, is considered a stronger opponent than anyone Davis has fought so far. Some experts believe that Salcido would defeat all of Davis's best opponents, including Gustavo Lemos, Nahir Albright, Jose Pedraza, and Miguel Medueno. Cruz further fueled the rivalry by repeatedly referring to Davis as "my son" while promoting his fight against Salcido. His use of Davis's name likely helped him gain more attention than Davis has received throughout his 12-fight professional career. Unlike Davis, many of Cruz's fights have taken place on high-profile cards rather than under-the-radar undercard bouts. Davis, however, is standing firm in his stance that he is the one making bigger moves in the sport. He remains focused on his upcoming world title fight against Denis Berinchyk and sarcastically stated that he will continue being an unhappy son while making 6 figures. Some critics argue that Davis is avoiding Cruz because he knows the outcome would likely be the same as in their amateur fights. They believe his claim that the fight would be a backward move is just an excuse to avoid another potential loss. Those who have seen their amateur fights recognize that Cruz dominated every time they stepped into the ring, and they suspect that Davis does not want to risk his professional career by taking on such a tough opponent. Critics also point out that Davis has yet to face any truly dangerous opposition in his pro career, suggesting that he is carefully managing his path to avoid difficult fights. He refers to himself as the businessman, which some interpret as a way of saying he is not willing to take high-risk matchups. Whether Davis is genuinely ahead of Cruz in his career or simply avoiding a fight he fears losing, the debate continues as both fighters carve their own paths in the boxing world. Davis's frustration with Matchroom also highlights a broader issue in boxing: how promoters use rivalries to generate hype. By referring to him as unhappy son, Matchroom played into the narrative that Cruz still has the upper hand over him, despite Davis's success as a pro. While some fans found the phrase amusing, Davis took it as a sign of disrespect, believing that he has moved beyond his amateur days and deserves to be recognized for his own accomplishments. His reaction suggests that he feels overshadowed by Cruz's presence, even though he has been working hard to establish himself as a legitimate title contender. Instead of focusing on a potential matchup with Cruz, Davis is setting his sights on bigger challenges, particularly his upcoming fight for a world title. From a business perspective, Davis's decision to avoid Cruz might be a strategic move to protect his career trajectory. Taking a fight against an opponent who has already defeated him multiple times carries significant risks, especially when he is on the verge of a title opportunity. A loss to Cruz could derail his momentum and diminish his marketability as a rising star. On the other hand, if Cruz continues to win and eventually claims a title of his own, the potential for a high-stakes showdown between them could grow even bigger. Davis may be playing the long game, waiting for the right moment when a fight with Cruz would not only make sense but also bring major financial rewards. For now, he seems determined to keep Cruz in his rearview mirror and focus on securing his own legacy. However, some boxing analysts believe that Davis's reluctance to fight Cruz could be seen as a lack of confidence. Many fighters embrace the opportunity to avenge past losses, proving that they have improved and evolved since their amateur days. By dismissing a rematch with Cruz as unnecessary, Davis risks being perceived as someone who avoids difficult challenges. The boxing world values fighters who are willing to take on all comers, and his refusal to engage with Cruz could hurt his reputation among hardcore fans. If he continues to dodge questions about a potential fight, it may only fuel speculation that he is not as sure of himself as he claims to be. Despite all the debate, Davis remains focused on his own journey, insisting that his career is on a better path than Cruz's. He has repeatedly emphasized that he is closer to a world title, while Cruz is still proving himself in the professional ranks. Whether or not fans agree with his stance, Davis is making moves that he believes will benefit him in the long run. As he prepares for his next fight, the rivalry with Cruz will likely remain a hot topic in boxing discussions. If both fighters continue to rise, a showdown between them could become inevitable, no matter how much Davis tries to avoid it. When that time comes, he will have to back up his words in the ring and prove that he is truly ahead of his longtime rival. The ongoing tension between Keyshawn Davis and Andy Cruz has added an intriguing layer to the boxing world, drawing attention to both fighters in ways that extend beyond their professional records. While Davis insists that a fight with Cruz would be a step backward, the reality is that their history continues to shape perceptions of his career. No matter how much he downplays the rivalry, the 4 amateur losses to Cruz remain a significant talking point. Fans and analysts alike wonder whether Davis is avoiding the fight out of strategy or fear of repeating the past. His dismissive attitude toward Cruz may be an attempt to protect his image, but the more he distances himself from the matchup, the more it appears like he's running from unfinished business. Boxing thrives on great rivalries, and whether Davis likes it or not, his name will always be linked to Cruz until they settle the score in the ring. At the same time, Davis is right about one thing: he is closer to a world title fight, and his career is advancing at a fast pace. If he wins his upcoming fight against Denis Berinchyk, he will prove that he is ready for the highest level of competition. However, avoiding Cruz forever may not be an option. If Cruz continues to dominate and earns his own title shot, the demand for a showdown between the two will become impossible to ignore. The boxing world loves redemption stories, and the prospect of Davis finally overcoming his biggest rival could be the defining moment of his career. But for now, Davis seems content focusing on his own path, leaving fans to debate whether he is making a smart business move or dodging a fight that could rewrite his legacy. One thing is certain: this rivalry is far from over, and no matter how much Davis tries to move on, the boxing world will keep pushing for the fight that everyone wants to see.